Welcome to the Producer Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Versman, and today we are talking with Aaron Van Maanen of Good Era, a film and video production company located in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Join us as we discuss Aaron's start in filmmaking, as well as working with clients and creating music videos. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
It's been a while since we saw each other in person with everything that's gone on this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'm curious, even myself, kind of how did you get started just in film in general?
Right. So it actually started my freshman year in college, and there was a screenwriting competition that the University of Northern Iowa held. And I saw an ad for it, and I thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to just kind of try. I'd always wanted to try my hand at writing a script for a short film. And so I wrote a script over the next few weeks and kind of sent it in thinking not really much was going to come of it. It was just kind of a good experience I wanted to challenge myself on. And I was one of the students in the university. There was about 8 of us that got selected to be in this class that was taught by a director from Hungary. And he came in for the whole semester and came and taught us just the art of filmmaking and writing, and really worked with us on crafting our writing abilities, and just basically, spent the whole like 4 months just working with him and other people. And I was easily the least experienced person in the room, and it probably showed even more now that I look back on it. But it was really just a great learning experience for me to realize, hey, this is something that I really enjoy doing, I'm passionate about, and loved being able to tell a story through film. And that is really kind of how things started for me.
So then, like with that class, were like all of you working on like each other's projects, or how did that work?
It really was a collaborative effort. One of the first few weeks we got paired with a cinematographer, and I was like, thank goodness, because I had no idea how to work a camera or do anything. And that was also kind of my first introduction on cameras and just the different specs and what to know there. And so that was another learning curve where I was really kind of thrown in and was like, I'm excited and passionate about it, but I just was very much at the base level of trying to learn as much as I could while in the class, and just being able to be with the director. His name was Frank Turok is his name.
Okay.
He was an incredibly just smart and gifted person that we were lucky to spend a couple months with.
Nice.
And he tore apart my short film, and which was expected. And but I definitely learned a lot from him, and appreciated that was kind of the starting point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I have a hate-love relationship with people that tear my scripts apart. Like,
oh yeah, that's gonna happen. It's not gonna be for everybody, but if you're excited and think it tells a good story, then it's a good thing. Yeah.
So then, what kind of led you to getting involved with Good Era from there?
Yeah, so over the next few years, that was kind of the catalyst of me realizing, hey, this could be a profession that I can actually pursue. And I'd been going through college. I was a communication studies major, and with the intent of kind of keeping it open, because I didn't exactly know where I wanted to go. I was kind of jumping around from PR to journalism to just regular communication studies. And my brother-in-law actually was a videographer, and he knew that I was starting to get more and more interested in it. So he actually took me to a wedding that he was filming, and I kind of second shot for him, and really just kind of learned a lot through that experience. And once again, he would kind of take me to a couple different shoots and help me, just kind of learn the ropes a little bit that way, just by just being on set and having that experience. And then I kind of started doing weddings on my own. And that's when I actually met Neil Johnson, who is my current business partner with Good Era. He is the director of photography, and kind of the same story where we would meet up and kind of talk about what our goals were and dreams for future work. And initially, we just would go on shoots together as contract videographers, and realized that a lot of our visions and beliefs kind of aligned with how we wanted to do projects and how we wanted to, yeah, go forward in that. So eventually we decided to team up, and that was about 2 years ago now, which is wild to think about because it doesn't seem like that that long ago. But now, yeah, that's just kind of the origin of how things started.
So do you guys still do weddings at all, or is that something you don't
So
do?
I actually am no longer filming weddings, but Neil and his wife, Courtney Johnson, they are Johnson's creative as well. They work together and do photography for weddings, and they are incredible. And they're still shooting weddings, but I actually am no longer going to be filming weddings. I'm just kind of focusing in on Good Era.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. I've shot a wedding and I never want to do it
Yeah,
again.
it's stressful. It's there's a lot. I mean, I find myself for like the first like 6 hours before they walk down the aisle, I'm like not breathing because I'm like, if I miss the shot of her walking, I can't ask her to walk down the aisle again because you just kind of you got to nail it. So definitely am a lot less stressed. I realize now that I'm no longer filming weddings. So yeah, pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also had a great experience with all the weddings I filmed. I really there's a lot of beautiful things that happen, but also it's pretty intense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
So, what gets you excited about a project, especially when maybe it's not like a short film or something of your own, but like a business coming to you guys wanting help?
Right. Yeah. Well, man, there's a lot of things. I really love when a business approaches us and says, "Hey, we don't want to do something that kind of fits the norm." There's a lot of you'll turn on the TV and there's a lot of things that kind of fall into this pretty simple trajectory of a commercial or even just a spot promoting a company. And so when we hear, "Hey, we want to do something unique and we want to have your vision be a input on all of this," that's what kind of excites me, where we can kind of have a mutual trust with the business, where they know that we're obviously going to be pushing their vision and their goals first and foremost, but also when they give us a little bit of lenience and saying, "Hey, we know that you are going to be able to make this look visually engaging, but also having the core values of pushing whatever they want to be doing for the spot." That's what I think kind of is one of my biggest things that I get excited about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
For you, what's kind of that process look like of coming up with a concept for a client? Because usually business owners aren't super creative
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
figuring out what they need to and what will work.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I know what you mean, where there sometimes it feels like you're just kind of thrown into something. So I always love having even a couple initial meetings where we can just really take in all of what the business is wanting to get across, or even who the business is and what they believe in. Because I feel like that's pretty just important to get right off the bat, so that you can at least have a certain path from the start. And then, yeah, I guess just working, Neil and I work collaboratively together on just kind of, he's kind of the vision, the visual aspects, and I will be working on writing and conceptualizing and being able to have someone where we can kind of bounce ideas back and forth. We've yeah, kind of found a kind of a niche where we work well together in that way.
Do you have any like tips you've learned when in terms of like figuring out the budget for them? Because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
can always be a struggle to make something that's cool and going to work for the client, but stay within what they have.
Right. Yeah. And I think that does come down to like those initial conversations too, where we've realized that if we are on our first phone call, we really don't send out something immediately. We like to like get all of the information and kind of sit on it for a little bit. And we realize we can kind of cover all of the bases, whether it's for them of being like, "Oh, we want to," if they want something that is so grand, we really need to make sure that we can cover our bases and maybe crew out exactly who needs to be there. And we just found out that it just takes a little bit of time just to work through all those details, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, so we can get the budget exactly where it needs to be, so that at the end, when we are in the process and we go, oh man, we under quoted, like, I'm sure you've been in that situation where
Yes.
you're in the thick of a project and you have a quote set and you realize, oh man, this is going to be a little more intense than we had imagined. So yeah, I think we just really are patient with figuring out all of those little details and making sure that it's going to be, just, I feel like, fair across the board for the client, so that we can get exactly what they want, but also on our end, so we kind of make sure that we're covered in the long run.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe a follow-up question to that, what have you kind of experienced when working with like repeat clients? Because I know for me, sometimes I've had repeats, and it's hard to get them to understand why you're quoting like a higher price,
Yeah.
second time around than the last project you did for them.
Right. I think we've had that happen before, where the price will increase even over from a year prior. It was maybe at a set rate, and then they ask for another video. And I think it's very important to just be completely honest and saying, hey, we are evolving as a company, and maybe the gear that we're using is different from what we did previously, and just being honest with the client and saying, this is what we're going to be providing and this is how much it entails. And obviously, I think it's sometimes someone who doesn't think through, like, oh, they're going to be spending days editing this as well as weeks in pre-production planning it. That just isn't in the forefront of some people's minds when they don't do it themselves. So we always just think, you know what, we just need to be as clear as possible in saying, this is the work we're going to be doing, and this is why we think this is a fair rate for what we're charging. So yeah, just kind of having that open dialogue and with the clients.
Yeah, for sure. It's still never the most enjoyable conversation to have.
Yeah. Oh, I usually tend to shy away from it, and Neil he's great at being upfront and honest, but still being kind and patient, because it's a difficult conversation to have anytime you're talking about budget, it can be tricky, but I think the best way to walk away feeling good is just being open and honest about it through it all.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I find, especially with the commercial work, sometimes almost the hardest thing to figure out is when you need extra crew and what positions they should be filling on the set. So how do you guys go about deciding when to bring extra crew on and what positions you want them to be doing?
Yeah, that's kind of it kind of ties into budget too, where you realize pretty quickly whether you're going to be able to bring people on, depending on if there is a restricted budget. But I guess what Neil and I always say is there's so many things that could be achieved with a larger crew, and there's a lot of incredible things that you can achieve with the set crew that you usually have, but it's just so great when you are able to kind of open that up and have more people on set to just achieve things that would not be possible with just two people. Usually Neil and I will walk away from a shoot and say, okay, what could we do better? What can we focus on that happened in this shoot to make sure maybe if there was a mistake or something that we can work through, talk through it. And almost every single time we say, would have been nice to have a couple extra sets of hands, just being able to, just the little things, moving stuff around and getting reset, and just having the appropriate amount of people to pull off what you're trying to do.
Sometimes this is almost like maybe the second most challenging part after budget, but how do you help non-actors act?
That is a very interesting challenge on I feel like any shoot that you come across on. And I feel like helping non-actors be feeling, it just really comes down to a level of comfortability. If you make them feel comfortable and it's just we really push that it's low stakes. We don't have to nail it on the first take. We really try and make a warm and welcoming environment where they can be on set and it doesn't feel like they're on set. And especially when we're shooting a tourism video and there's obviously non-actors that are going to be in it. We really just try and be warm and welcoming and saying, hey, it's okay to be exactly who you are. You don't have to try and be anybody else. And usually that brings out just a very authentic reaction, and you can see it through on the screen, rather than if we try and say, hey, really try and like look so happy in this shot, like usually they'll be like, I am trying to look happy. But if you just say, hey, be with your family, interact how you normally would, maybe throw in a couple jokes to kind of lighten the mood, that kind of thing, that usually turns out to be a lot more authentic and genuine than if you were trying to force anything.
And have you noticed working with non-actors that maybe there's like personality traits in
Right.
people you've
Oh,
seen
yeah.
where it's like people that have this trait maybe aren't always the best
Yeah.
actor to
Well,
use, and so we try to avoid that
yeah,
type.
we've had people say, "Hey, I'm really introverted. I'm not feeling super comfortable." And usually we've had people really shine in that scenario where we say, "You know what? That's okay. Like we know you're not perfectly comfortable, with these lights shining on you, but just really kind of taking them out of it and being like, you know what? Do exactly what you would do in a normal situation and don't feel the pressure and don't, and I think one thing that we learned recently is I would sometimes use terminology like action or like Neil and I would be talking in this jargon, and instead of just being like, you know what, we're gonna roll, you just portray life and
Mhm.
don't feel like we're actually on this, film set. And usually that kind of brings things back to earth and makes it a little more easy and comfortable for everybody involved.
Okay. Have you guys? I know on a number of the sets that I've worked on, there's been a lot of the cameraman will hit record and we just won't like tell the people that we're actually
Right.
recording. Do you
Yep.
do that a lot as well?
Yeah, and that honestly sometimes is the best, where even for interviews, sometimes once the interview concludes, we'll keep the dialogue kind of going. And Neil and I, we kind of make eye contact and we're like, keep rolling, keep. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's when some of the most genuine dialogue actually occurs, when they don't feel the pressure of the camera rolling, but it actually is that's when the authentic conversation really can kind of cultivate and grow just from feeling comfortable.
Okay, no, that's a. I've never thought about doing that with interviews before, so now
Yeah.
I'm tempted to try that.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
What are some things you've learned over the last couple of years about building relationships with clients so
Yeah.
that like they do want to come back and work with you again and not just go look for somebody new?
Oh, absolutely. I think building relationships is easily one of the most important parts of just working with any clients, because I feel like having that relationship will lead to open conversation in post production, where, like I said earlier, there's just like a level of trust between uh, us and the client, where they can feel comfortable being like, hey, you know what, we need to change this to make it more aligned with our vision. And when they can be honest like that, we welcome that. We welcome the feedback and anything so that it can be closer aligned to the vision they have. So we really value building relationships with every client. And yeah, we've been fortunate to work with a lot of really incredible people that we hope to work with again in the future.
I did want to jump in and look also more specifically at music videos because I've seen you've done
Yeah,
a
yeah.
number of those, and I've like been crew on some, but I've never had like an artist come to me like, "Hey, can you help me make this?" So I'm just curious what that's all like. So I guess maybe to start, like, how have you guys gotten connected with the artists that you're working with? Do you know them personally, or have are they like seeing your other work and just reaching out to you guys?
Yeah, we one of the people we recently made a music video for, actually his name is Patrick Cunningham, and he is a frequent composer for a lot of our work. He's currently out in Seattle at the Seattle Film Institute getting his graduate degree. But yeah, so we that was definitely a previous connection that we had. And then, yeah, a lot of it, I guess, for our music videos, we've had some personal connections, and then some where they have seen our work and thought, hey, this is how I would want to try and represent for myself. But yeah, I think with a lot of work, there is just a lot of word of mouth. We found that just really, yeah, I guess that comes back to building positive relationships, where if you have a positive relationship with a client, they're much more likely to verbalize that, hey, there's this production company in town that, hey, maybe you could do a music video for. But definitely we worked with another close friend of ours, Ben Rendell, on a couple music videos. And yeah, we just really enjoyed it, because it's kind of nice to kind of break the form and do something similar to a short film where it's just very creatively driven. And yeah, we look forward to every music video because each is different and a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, they definitely look like a lot of fun with
Yeah.
the BTS that I've seen you guys post.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We had the last music video, we had Patrick jumping into a lake, and I sent him the idea and he thought I was joking, and I was like, you're going to be jumping into a lake. and he did, and he did it great. He was very committed, and yeah, yeah, happy to work with him.
With music videos, is your process for developing the concept different? Like, is the artist a lot of times coming and like already having somewhat of a concept and they just need help, or are you still coming up with the full concept yourselves?
Yeah, there is a level of collaboration with it, because I feel like with every artist, with their song, they kind of know, hey, this could be a neat way to portray it. And I guess with Patrick, for example, we went through a lot of different ideas of how we can best yeah, just showcase him in a way. This was his first album that he had released, and really, listening through the song for the first time, he said, hey, take this and kind of run with it. Hence why I had him jumping into a lake. That was not his idea, obviously, and for good reason. But yeah, there definitely is a level of creative freedom where, yeah, just kind of trying to listen through it and talking with them. And it definitely isn't like a all on your own kind of thing, where I was talking with Patrick and I'm like, what does this song mean to you? You know, what are the main themes? And we're working through the different levels of how he wrote it and stuff like that. So kind of piecing all of those things together in a collaborative way with him kind of led to that concept of how we wanted to try and portray him in the music video. And this one in particular, it's called Gone Outro. It's the final track on his album. It is a song that encompasses every song on his album, and it comes together all in one. And having it be his first album that he released, what really kind of kept coming back to me is that just really showcasing Patrick in a way that's powerful and emotional. And it's really, it felt like a debut. Every time I listened to the song, I was just like, man, Patrick, we need to have you be in the forefront. You know, we need to have you really shown, and kind of, it's a story arc of how at first he's alone, and then at the end it kind of is a message of how he's surrounded by a lot of people, and the people who supported him throughout his entire life. So we wanted to think of a way to portray that without, you know, very blatantly just saying, hey, these are the people that supported Patrick, but instead symbolically showing, oh, now there's a part where he was once by himself with a birthday cake, and then at the end he has people surrounding him, and then he's out in a field by himself, and then at the end there's people running around with we had a very visually have you seen the music video?
I can't remember if I've seen that one or
Maybe
not.
We at the very there's a scene where we had people running around Patrick with sparklers.
Okay.
And we we weren't alone out at the park when we were filming it, so people were walking by and people are saying, what in the world is happening? Because I mean, from an outsider's perspective, it was probably the weirdest looking thing in the world. And then you see us running around with a camera, and then people waving sparklers, and but really, yeah, just kind of showing that people are around him and supporting him. That was kind of the main theme that we wanted to show. We couldn't get people to join him in the water. That was the one thing where nobody else wanted to jump in the lake. I know. I was pitching it to people, and no one was interested, which is understandable. But
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So, do you find working with music videos? Do you find it easier or harder because the musician's like another creative person?
I find it even easier and even just more fun where you can kind of work collectively with the artist, because obviously they have so many ideas and a vision and wanting to we definitely welcome all of the ideas that the artist would bring to the table, but also are excited if they say, hey, take this and run with it, because we can conceptualize and say, hey, is this kind of something that a way that you would want to showcase this song? But definitely the more collaboration, the better. We love being able to work side by side with the artist just to really help them realize the vision for the music video.
Have you come across like any unique challenges to making music videos that don't normally exist with like your normal commercials and promotionals?
Oh, absolutely. There really has been, almost on every music video, we will shot list and storyboard almost to a T with music videos, and just to really kind of make sure we're covering all of our bases, trying to stay in line with it. But almost on every music video, we've had to kind of veer off course in some way just to accommodate certain things. I mean, sometimes it's going to be raining. Sometimes there's going to be we're having trouble with lighting the sparklers. So we're trying to, think of ways that we can be more efficient or better. But really, I guess my advice that I would give for music videos is be ready to veer off from your original plan and I usually, it's really a hard thing each time. You'd think I would have learned by now, but even with this last music video with Patrick, we had a couple things where we thought, you know what, visually this is not working and this is not exactly how we had imagined it. And so being able to kind of let go of your strict original plan and kind of go with the flow will inevitably lead to a stronger final product. And just kind of being able to know, you know what, in my head this made sense, but now seeing it on set it's not working. Being able to recognize that and move forward in a positive way instead of just thinking, oh man, this is this is not working. So
Okay.
yeah.
You mentioned kind of, like sometimes it'll be raining in that. I'm just curious with you guys, whether it's music video or commercial, like when the weather doesn't cooperate, like do you usually try to reschedule stuff, or are you more the type of how can we still shoot this and get creative?
Yeah, I think Neil and I definitely would lean towards the how can we still make this happen? Like how can
Okay.
we adapt and how can we figure out a way to almost incorporate it into our original vision instead of just saying, you know what, like let's just call it off. And firsthand how many things go into planning and scheduling, and when you have a day that works for everybody, you don't really want to let go of that day.
Yes.
And so really just being comfortable with knowing, you know what, not everything is going to go according to plan, but we're going to adapt and make it work the best we can.
So I got a couple kind of wrap up questions.
Yeah, for sure.
First one being, what are some resources you've used to grow in your craft?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, YouTube is huge. I mean, we're even trying to learn constantly of how can we light something better or how can we do a setup better. I just feel like YouTube is an endless supply of just constant resources and things that you can utilize. And people, it's really cool because I feel like in our craft, people love to help each other and love to like build each other up and say, hey, this really worked for me, I think it could work for you. And finding videos like that are just like really inspiring. And we watch a lot of videos on Vimeo of just cinematographers and directors that we enjoy, and gaining just inspiration from that and saying like even just individual shots from a minute video, and we say, hey, that was a really beautiful way to move the camera, and maybe we can try and employ something similar in our next shoot. And so just constantly trying to garner that like inspiration from other production companies and cinematographers. And yeah, I watch a lot of movies, and that's where it's kind of a funny way to think about studying when just watching a movie and thinking, okay, there's so many incredible ways that you can tackle telling a story and showcasing a story. And so that's definitely one of my outlets where I watch just a ridiculous amount of movies, and I love it. I'm always trying to get Neil to watch movies with me, and it's yeah, kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, no, I enjoy watching movies. Sometimes it's hard to find the time to do it, but
Right.
yeah, no, it was fun earlier this fall, and it wasn't by choice, but like I ended up watching the first Guardians of the Galaxy like without
Yeah.
sound,
Really?
and it was really interesting. Like I had seen it before, so I knew the story in that, but when you suddenly don't have the sound there and like stuff that jumps out at you was so different and
Oh,
interesting.
absolutely. Yeah. I'll have to try that.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
watch the sequel. I'll watch Guardians 2 with that sound, and we can compare.
okay. So then, what's something you wish you would have known back when you were first getting started with Good Era that you know now?
Oh man, something I wish I would have known. Um, I think this is one that I think about a lot. Right when we started Good Era, I just as a person I kind of am driven somewhat off of anxiety, where I'm always constantly worried, thinking like, oh, are we making this the best it can be, or can we do this differently? And so it kind of led me right when we started the business to really struggle with like a work-life balance, where not having that kind of clock in, clock out uh, way to go about your workday, it was really hard for me to kind of shut off, and I would just find myself working into the night and being like, oh, I can work on this edit, and not
Hmm.
really turn it off ever. So I would tell myself to really focus in on that early, because I feel like that's such a healthy way to go about just working from home and working and having your own business, and finding that work-life balance early, because it definitely, I'm still working on it, but I think I've definitely grown a lot in that, and being able to find that line of, you know what, you can pause for the day, pick it back up in the morning, and be able to be a little bit healthier that way. Um, I would definitely tell my past self to do that.
Yeah, no, that's really hard, and a lot of people now after this year know what we go through
Yeah,
with
yeah.
having to work from home.
It was funny hearing people say, "Yeah, it's so weird working from home," and I'm like, "It's pretty great. We're
Yep.
working from home for a while."
Yes.
Yeah.
Final question. What would be one piece of advice you'd give to somebody that's just getting started in filmmaking?
Yeah, man. One piece of advice. Um, it's a good question. I guess I would go back to what we were just talking about, where um, like look for others for inspiration. I feel like at any level, that is a viable thing to be doing. Where even if you're the top of the top, I'm sure Martin Scorsese looks to others for inspiration and ways to do things differently. And I think that's just such an important thing, where there's um, yeah, so many incredible people doing incredible projects and making things happen with even these smaller crews. I mean, we're seeing movies that are premiering at South by Southwest, where they have a micro budget and they're able to pull off a feature film, and things like that are inspiring, where even though you might not have all of the resources or the people that you think might be like the standard, or what you need, what people are telling you, oh yeah, you need all of this to succeed and do things well, that there are so many things that you can achieve and pull off just with who you have and the resources that you have, that really incredible things can happen with just the things that you have in front of you and the people that you work with. And yeah, I guess that would be my advice to people who are just starting, to not be discouraged by whatever situation you're in, because you can make great things happen.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's so true. I've definitely had those projects where they come out way better than I thought they
Right.
were for the budget we had or the people
Oh,
we
absolutely.
had, and it's like, this is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a neat thing when that happens, when you can look back and say, oh wow, we were able to pull something off with with not a lot, and it's something you can definitely be proud of.
Yes. All right. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Producer Podcast. Thank you very much, Aaron, for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
And until next time, make sure to subscribe to the Producer Podcast. And thanks for listening.